And now for today's amazing program. LAPL 150, Our Story is Yours, is an exhibition spanning the history of the library's first 150 years and is a central event in our Sesquicentennial Celebration. Join curators Jim Sherman, the librarian in the Literature and Fiction Department, and Christina Rice, senior librarian of the photo collection, as they tell the story of how the library and city grew up together. Helping moderate the discussion is Kevin Awakuni, a librarian in the Exploration and Creativity Department. Now let's welcome to the LA Made stage, Christina, Jim, and Kevin.
Cool, thanks for coming out, guys. All right, let's get started.
Okay.
150 years. Go!
Go ahead.
So thank you very much, Diane. Diane was one of the people who have been really driving the 150 celebration from the very beginning. And one of the first people was talking about having an exhibition, which is great. I think it kind of starts, our interest in it particularly comes from the book that we did, Feels Like Home, which was a celebration of the 25th anniversary of the library's reopening after the devastating fire. And that's when we really we edited this book and also wrote chapters of it, and we really enjoyed doing it. And that's, I think that's kind of what kicked off our interest.
Yeah, and if you couldn't tell, we like celebrating anniversaries here at the library. Central 100 is coming in 2026, so keep an eye out for that. So yeah, I mean, I think that was, I had been the lead coordinator for the Central 25 celebration. It was a fabulous celebration for anybody that came, and it was wonderful, and I broke out in a really bad stress rash and got super sick after. So for LAPL 150, my main goal was to kind of do nothing, even though I told Diane, let me know what you need. It was like as I was walking out the door and waving. But eventually I was asked to put together a photo display, maybe like in the Annenberg Gallery, I don't know, maybe in a case. We like our displays here at the library as well. And so, yeah, originally it was like a photo display. And I don't know how you cram 150 years like into a simple photo display. And so almost immediately we realized that was not going to be the case.
Well, actually, we were kind of...
Were we?
Well, I think we were happy that it was going to be that small because it's like, oh, that's something that we could just put together.
Manageable.
It's like it's something manageable. You can only have the broadest of understanding, so you don't get too deep. You can just kind of give a very broad brush. And I think that was we were kind of like at that we were kind of easygoing with that prospect. But then,
a couple of things happened. So first off, there is a warehouse that the library sends stuff to. So if you think about that warehouse at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, we have like a library equivalent of that, and it's down on Anderson Street, which is a little bit east. And so we had been dying to go there for years because we just heard about
tales.
Yes, heard tales of Anderson. And so we finally got permission to go there because we heard that a lot of PR files had gone there during the pandemic and that there were photos. We thought, well, if we're going to do a photo display, we should probably go check out these photos. Even though I have 4 million photos here at the library, I wanted to go find more. And so once we started going through the files at Anderson Street, we started finding like really incredible things. And then we realized that our Getty Gallery, our big gallery, had opened up. And we thought, oh, well, if the Getty is going to open up, then maybe,
it kind of lends itself.
We can lend itself. So I mean, it was natural for us to get sucked into it. So I oversee the photo collection, and so we have our institutional archive. And Jim is, I think, probably the closest thing we have to a library historian here.
One of them. Yeah.
Well, do you want to tell them about your timeline?
Sure. It's during the pandemic, too, and also during the pandemic, I became interested in the fact, because my department actually, even though it's literature and fiction, we have all the library history books. And so in our closed stacks, we have all these amazing documents from the library's history, but none of it is all together in one place, and hardly any of it is digitized. So one of the things I did is start creating this timeline, which was just going to be a simple timeline, but there's so much to the history, that I wanted to include, that it kind of metastasized into this gigantic, somewhat unwieldy document. But
it's a 33-page bullet-pointed document
right now, and it also has annotations. But it's just simply because you keep on finding stuff. Oh, this fascinating, so many interesting little things. And so that was so we kind of that was the idea. That's kind of the timeline is a basis for which we had to pare down enormously for the text of the exhibition, and then the photos that are all representative of to illustrate it all.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, our photo display. What
you had finished your Christina just finished her Jane Russell biography and was looking for a new project.
So so it was going to be so I finished my Jane Russell book. It was a month into lockdown, and I apparently emailed you and said, let's write a book about Central Library, because that was how I coped with the world falling apart. So instead of a book, we did an exhibit. That's
pretty much it.
But I still hope we can do the book. So so our photo display spiraled out of control, and in 6 months, we conceived of, curated, and installed LAPL 150, Our Story is Yours, now on display in the Getty Gallery.
Wow. So that took about 6 months?
6 months. It should have taken 2 years.
I mean, that's a crazy amount of work to cram in 6 months.
It was the day after we installed it, I literally fell asleep on the floor of my office. But we did it. I think it turned out pretty good.
Wow. Any sleeping on the floor for you, Jim?
No, but I mean, I was too nervous. We spent a long time the night before polishing cases ourselves, and we have, and it was also designed. We did have support from Mitch and who helped us put it together. We had some really good support, and of course Amy and Diane. But the thing is, with when we were kind of having that short period of time that you discussed, Kevin, or you brought up, was really helpful in some ways because we couldn't get too deep into the story. Even though the whole Getty Gallery is enormous, we were also struggling with a way to make this different from other library histories. So much of the library histories that have been written in the past, starting with the first one that was written at the 25th anniversary by Harriet Wadley, which would have been right around the turn of 1900, turn of the century. It's always focused on it's kind of based on the great man theory of history, and a lot of the great men, of course, in the LAPL have been women. But focusing on the different the people that really drove it. And then another aspect that's kind of got us lost was the idea of a timeline, which I'd found can be completely, can really drag down a narrative. And so we really, in some ways, it really kept this, trying to keep it and having almost no time to do it. We had to keep it simple, and I think we actually succeeded in that.
No, I would agree, especially considering the amount of time that you had to put on such a big project in such a small window. It seems very admirable to kind of go through the pieces as thoroughly as you did, but within the kind of time constraints. So yeah, it's a great job. You should be very happy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to move on? Do you want to do the videos?
Yeah, we want to do the first. So we have a couple of videos that we're going to show.
Yeah, we have a few videos. So we thought it was kind of weird to talk about the exhibit when the exhibit's upstairs. And it's so visually interesting. So we did pre-record some videos talking about some aspects of the exhibition that we really love and hope people are paying attention to. But if not, we wanted to shine a spotlight on them.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Alan, first video. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jim, and I'm a librarian in the Literature and Fiction Department of Los Angeles Public Library. One of the things that I was most intrigued with when I first started is in some of the older books, we noticed that there's a brand on the top of these books. And the story is that Charles Lummis, like many immigrants from the East, became enamored with Southwestern culture and California culture, including Rancho culture. He wanted to make sure that these rare books were imprinted in a way that would prevent them from being stolen, or if stolen, easily identified. And so he came up with for him, an on-brand decision to actually brand these books with a hot iron.
Hi, I'm Christina Rice, Senior Librarian of the Los Angeles Public Library Photo Collection and co-curator of the upcoming exhibit, LAPL 150, Our Story is Yours, with Jim Sherman. And yes, we do have a number of branded books in our collection, but the mystery is, what happened to the brand? We don't know. But that's okay. For our exhibit, we had a replica brand made, courtesy of Photo Friends, so we've got you covered.
Opens March 16th at Central Library. And our social media team is really outstanding. The person that directed that just won an award as one of the
A mover and shaker.
a mover and shaker of the American Library Association
Keith
puts
Kessler,
together a
yeah.
national list, and he
Also won a Webby.
won a
Yeah.
Webby.
Yeah. Had like the Wes Anderson style look of the.
Oh, that was that was on purpose. It wasn't initially on purpose, but we had Jim positioned in front of the card catalogs and photo, and we're like, it looks like a Wes Anderson video, and then we just
did it on the
and then we
fly.
just did it.
Yeah,
then
that's
we
great.
just ran with it.
So yeah, what were you guys hoping to accomplish with the exhibit?
So, well, I mean, we wanted to tell the story of the library, so that was the primary focus. But as Jim was mentioning, we wanted to kind of show the broad beats of the library, not get too bogged down in the history, because the history of anything is incredibly complicated and incredibly nuanced, and that's certainly the case with the library. So we wanted to kind of lay out the broad beats in a way, that made sense, but we didn't, want to get too bogged down in the details. We didn't want to focus on people. So, because there are so many people that have played a role in the success of the library system over the years, and traditionally it tends to be our board of library commissioners and our city librarians that get a lot of credit, which they absolutely deserve. But as us, like we're boots on the ground people. We know what it takes to run this library system. So we wanted to avoid focusing on personalities, because once you mention one person,
Sure, you can't leave others out.
yeah, and you're gonna just make people angry. So that was another goal, was to just not make people angry with this exhibit. That was a huge
We
goal.
almost succeeded. But,
Well,
but the thing too that we wanted to reflect, and one of the things that I didn't really understand until I started, we started working on it, but that starting looking at what Los Angeles was like in 1872, it was 6,000 people. And even then, it was the biggest town in Southern California. Northern California is where it was, thanks to the, gold rush and so on. So we were really started out right at that time, and we grew with the city. And so that's what it reflects. The broad beats reflect the broad beats of the movement as the city changed, and how the library adapted and reflected
oh,
it.
interesting. Sure. As the population grew, the library kind of grew.
Oh,
Yeah, with it.
absolutely.
Kind of just following up. As you started doing your research, did the theme start to come more apparent? Did you go in with certain ideas in mind and kind of explore it? Did they kind of reveal themselves through the research?
Oh, I think they revealed themselves. I mean, I didn't know what the hell we were doing when we started. I kind of depended on you. I was just going to find photos.
But you've seen from you have such a great understanding. I think that the photo collection actually, being part of that, you can see so much and learn so much about the city. And so a lot of that had already been done for you when you became the head of the photo collection. But yeah, a little bit of both, but definitely the themes, because that theme did come together because it was, we were talking about the changes that Los Angeles went through. I mean, it went from, I think it was about 100,000 people in 1900, and then it's like 500,000 in 1920, 20 years later.
Oh yeah, that's.
And to see all the different things that come, how the city responded to that, was that did really come together, I think.
Yeah.
while we were
Oh, yeah.
writing
I think it absolutely as we were, it kind of hit us oh, right.
Right.
The story of the library is the story of the city.
And I also wonder, because you had such a small window of time to do the work, that as soon as a theme that you could lock into kind of revealed itself, that's what you worked around.
Yeah, the story. Yeah,
Yeah.
we got it done.
Kind of
go.
a relief. I would
That's
imagine.
totally true.
Yeah.
But also it's the other kind of thing that made itself apparent is that it was the people of the city that demanded a library, and so I think we do our best to serve our huge community,
Right.
but the community has always really been there for us, which is why the title of the exhibit is "Our Story Is Yours."
Yeah.
And that is the theme that kind of came together.
Yeah, that came out
that's
of
really
it.
Good point.
Absolutely. Which I think is a good segue into our next video.
All right.
About the Hollywood fire and how the city responded.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Next video, please.
Few people realize that the Hollywood Library predates the Hollywood sign and the movie industry in Los Angeles. The Hollywood Public Library was an independent library that was started by the Hollywood Women's Club in 1906. Its first location was in 2 rented rooms on Cahuenga near Hollywood Boulevard. Shortly thereafter, Andrew Carnegie pledged $10,000 for a library building, and Hollywood co-founder Dieta Wilcox Beveridge donated the land. In 1907, the library opened its Carnegie-funded English tutor building on the corner of Hollywood and Ivar. It was a handsome building and was featured on postcards advertising Hollywood. It was popular immediately, and the number of cardholders doubled in the first 6 months. A larger library took the Carnegie Library building's place on Hollywood at Ivar in 1923. This beautiful new library featured Spanish colonial architecture, and it continued to thrive until it was outgrown too. That building was disassembled and moved through the streets down to 1623 Ivar, where it was reassembled as an even larger library. Few people realize the role the Hollywood Library played in the community. It was beloved. Authors, actors, screenwriters, and musicians used the library for research, and they also participated in library programs, including exhibits, art shows, lectures, open-air readings, and civic gatherings. The library itself was a character in books and films, most famously Raymond Chandler's The Big Sleep. The Hollywood branch was the second largest library in the Los Angeles Public Library system behind Central. The library had amassed collections pertaining to the growth of Hollywood in the movie industry. These included working scripts from silent era films, autographed biographies of film stars. These were one-of-a-kind collections. At 2 a.m. on the morning of April 13, 1982, at least 14 fire companies arrived to find the Hollywood Library fully engulfed. It took them an hour and 15 minutes to put out the fire. The library building, 75% of its book collection, and all of its theater arts collection were destroyed. The cause was arson. Vandals broke windows to enter the library, graffitied the walls, tossed empty beer cans, and piled books up behind the circulation desk before lighting them on fire.
After fire destroyed the Hollywood Library on April 13, 1982, there was an immediate outpouring of support from the community, both from citizens, businesses, clubs, and organizations in Hollywood, and from the motion picture and television industry. Among the first to respond, Johnny Carson donated $10,000. The Screen Actors Guild sent notices to its members soliciting funds and memorabilia. A group of senior citizens volunteered to stamp and mail out appeals. Hollywood Heritage gave walking tours through historic Hollywood, and Club Lingerie held Save the Library fundraisers. And Orson Welles voiced this dramatic public service announcement.
Sometimes we take a gift for granted until we lose it. In the Hollywood Library Holocaust, 70,000 books were reduced to ashes. A window to our world was blackened. But more than fire is gutting Los Angeles city libraries. Smaller budgets mean shorter library hours, fewer books, and cuts in staff and service. He can't afford it, neither can we. That's why the Los Angeles Library Association needs your membership and contribution now. By supporting the Los Angeles Library Association, you help support our libraries. You help give the gift of books. You help give the knowledge that preserves our heritage. Give the gift. Give the library.
Perhaps the biggest loss from the Hollywood fire was the destruction of the Performing Arts Collection. This special collection held rare and irreplaceable items, such as notebooks of D.W. Griffith and Charlie Chaplin, silent-era movie scripts, and a vast collection of theater programs and playbills. Supporters of the library felt that there needed to be a collection that represented Hollywood's role in motion pictures and TV, as well as represented the community's history. And they felt strongly that this should be in a public library. People responded in a big way. The widow of William Wyler donated his collection of 200 books about the motion pictures. Hitchcock's family donated 100 years of the British humor magazine Punch. Award-winning television director Rod Warren donated his unpublished scripts and papers, as did countless other writers and directors. Highlights of the special collections include leather-bound scripts of silent era movie director Herbert Brennan with telegrams from studio heads inserted in between the pages, sketches from famed costume designer Adrian, movie posters, lobby cards. The Hollywood Chamber of Commerce donated its Hollywood Christmas Parade archive. In 1983, when the original model for the library was unveiled, Goldwyn said that he and Gary were criticized for its design. People said that it didn't look like what a library was supposed to look like, he said. Have 4 rather solid walls, be dark, and have Shakespeare and Plato on the walls. That's good too, but this is different. I hope people will come and look at it and want to come in and read a book. The Frank Gehry designed Hollywood Library opened on June 12, 1986, more than 4 years after the fire. Kirk Douglas cut the ribbon while teary-eyed Hollywood staff members looked on. Staff members from Central Library were also on hand because just 2 months earlier, the Central Library had also burned. In fact, lessons learned in the aftermath of the Hollywood Library fire about salvaging books and handling donations would prove to be invaluable in shaping the response to the Central Library fire. The groundswell of support demonstrated how much the Hollywood community loved and valued its library. This amazing collection is still accessible to the public by making an appointment at the Hollywood Library.
Yeah. So that video is actually on display in the exhibition, but we really wanted to highlight it because it's truly fantastic.
And I'm looking for Kelly, who's working today.
Is Kelly here?
And she's not.
No,
But she, that also is an example of some of the people that that work here and how great they are. Like both both Tiffany Sanford, who's the first person talking, and Kelly Wallace, the second person talking. There, Tiffany, you're here. Yay! That's fantastic. I was going to say that Tiffany is a great library historian.
Yeah, she's the other LAPL historian we have on staff.
And she's written so many blogs. If you go to the LAPL.org website, she's written so many great in-depth blogs, not only about Hollywood, but you're like the bookmobile expert. I think we bothered you this week about a bookmobile question, didn't we? So we were able to find other people who are crazy for the history to help us on this. And Kelly's Kelly Wallace, the California expert. And both of you worked at Hollywood. Neither of you work there now, right? Oh, you didn't. You just loved the story.
Yeah.
So, but yes, definitely read Tiffany's stuff on the website. And the thing is, we originally had thought the idea of having, we love the Orson Welles PSA, which is on YouTube if you ever are bored and you want to watch that. And we really were just going to have, because we have a Huell Hauser video of the reopening of the library in part of the exhibit, and on the other part we have Orson Welles, and we didn't just think, although I think Christina would have been fine with it.
I would have been fine with Orson
just
on
those
a
two
loop.
talking back and forth, and so we
Fantastic.
thought, well, maybe there should be a little framing device for the video, but what ends up happening is that that's relatively minor, because that job that you, Keith, and Kelly did was so good, and just stands the expertise that we have of librarians and library staff who work here, who are experts and are interested in the history of what we've done here.
Yeah.
So thanks, Tiffany. That was really great.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, and we went to Keith, and we initially just thought it would be just like a 1 or 2 minute setup to the Orson Welles, and then he just ended up creating that. Because it just shows you how easy it is for librarians to just fall in and just go overboard, which is fantastic.
Well, I mean, you're enthused.
They're really good at falling overboard.
But to the point that Christina was making beforehand, it shows that the Hollywood is a great example of how the community supported the library, because what's not really stressed is the fact that there was no money to rebuild the Hollywood Library. It was pretty much built by the community, and they'd always been big supporters, that you can see here. And it's also a big reflection of what we wanted to make sure happened in the exhibition, because we love this building and Central Library, but so much of the focus of the history has also been on Central Library, including the Susan Orling book that came out, which is really focused on the history of the library. But the library is, since it's about these communities, we were looking for ways to talk about branches, we can't get into each branch because there's 72 of them, and each one of them has great histories. So some of the ways we did that and talk about is reflecting the branches as aspects of the community, and then we had the public art, which we can get into a little later. So that was really important, and we kind of put the central library part of the exhibit in kind of in a corner by itself because we want to make sure that people focus that it's the whole system. It's not just what happens here in this building.
Well, it's really like a room by itself. It has its own room.
And we love Central Library, don't get us wrong. But.
Right, but yeah, LAPL is more than central.
Yes,
and
it is,
sometimes
absolutely.
people get really central focused, except for the branch people who they're dealing with
Again, we were trying really hard not to make people mad
And
at us.
those branches are amazing. You go to it's like the center of a lot of the communities, and that's how they started. And we'd get into that in the exhibit a little bit. A lot of communities in the early days actually auditioned to become branches, and they were completely run by just citizens. And if they got enough, and books would come from Central Library, be delivered, and then if there was a high enough interest, then the library would begin staffing it, and then so on, and then they became branches if they were successful. That's the first early branches came out of that system.
Yeah, kind of speaking to it, when you guys were putting the exhibit together, how did you guys decide to begin to organize it and display it in the way that it is upstairs, the organization and layout?
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned, we wanted to avoid a very strict timeline because we thought that would be kind of boring, but we knew we did to some degree tell a chronological story of the library and of the city. And so that was the first thing was, as we mentioned, kind of figuring out like really what the broad beats of the library were and organizing it that way. So we do have one wall that is kind of the timeline of the system's history. And then we wanted to also kind of focus on the services that we provide because we've evolved over the years. And for a long time, we were we was getting books into the hands of people, and I think we did that in a variety of really creative ways. And so we talked a lot about that. We had, bookmobiles and service to shut-ins and whatnot. But then we also, yes, we're talking about the history of the library, but we're still here. 150 years later, we're still here. We're still very active. We're still serving our communities.
Still evolving.
Yeah, and in the modern age, I think libraries have really started to. They're not even started. They have evolved, just beyond. Yes, so yes, books are a huge part of what we do and information, but we've really expanded our services. And so that's another aspect of the exhibit is just talking about the expanded services, youth services, because that's always been a huge part of what libraries have done, and LAPL in particular, children's services and youth services. So we have a section that talks about that. And then, of course, we talk about the branches and the development of the branch system, and then our central library section.
Yeah. So, okay. You want to kind of segue to the next video?
Yeah, that's a good segue.
Sure. All right, Alan, if we can go ahead and play the next video.
The Central Library fire of 1986 was one of the most catastrophic events in our city's history. And when the library started to burn on April 29th, the Herald Examiner newspaper, whose offices were located right up the street at Broadway and 12th, dispatched 3 photographers to cover the events as they were unfolding. They stuck around for a long time. They caught the staff watching the building go up in flames. They caught the firefighters bravely battling the fire and collapsing in the process. And they caught the spectators just watching these events as they were unfolding. So they continued to send photographers for the next few days as the library was unpacked, and in the process ended up creating a tremendous documentation of these events. So a few photos ran in the newspaper at the time, but largely these rolls of film just sat dormant for many years. In 1989, the Herald Examiner folded and the Hearst Corporation donated the archive to the Los Angeles Public Library. And so now with this exhibit, we're really pleased to be sharing these photos, many of them never before seen. And what we've ended up doing is kind of creating a wallpaper which tells the story of the fire in 35mm film. So we hope when you come in, you'll actually come and take a look at the photos of the staff members across the street in anguish, look at the firefighters collapsing, and look at the people gathered and watching it, because this really is our story as well as yours.
Of the many treasures we found in the special collections while we were looking through objects to bring to the exhibition, some of our favorites were the T-shirts that the staff designed to keep up morale during the difficult times between the fire, moving to different locations and then moving back to the library. The one that grabs attention most is the Shelvers from Hell, which is this kind of heavy metal themed with a skeleton rising up from the fire. So it shows, it kind of represents the time that they were in Central Library, the first stage. The Rio Vista sweatshirt looks like something you'd pick up on a vacation, In fact, it was the warehouse where the books from the Central Library were moved to. The warehouse, as the name implies, had a view of the Los Angeles River in the warehouse district east of the downtown area. That was where the books were organized for their next move to the temporary location of Central Library. Of these t-shirts, the most iconic is the Central Library Lives. On the back of the t-shirt is a picture, an image of Central Library with a hard hat, which of course was the de rigueur for the librarians who were working in these difficult situations. It shows the resiliency of the librarians as they were going through this difficult time, and it really speaks to the time and the hope of the librarians. Another fun one in the bright colors is the Pack Like the Egyptian, which was based on the Bangle song of the era, because that's all the librarians were doing. They were packing and unpacking as they moved from location to location. And the last t-shirt in our case is the Move in Confusion, which represents the chaos of the excitement, but also the chaos of the return to Central Library in 1993.
Wow. Yeah. Great job talking. One take.
Yeah, I'd had a lot of coffee that morning.
Well,
so even though I filmed
a
a whole video about it, I do want to point out that Herald Examiner film strip wallpaper is my favorite thing in the entire exhibit.
Wow.
Not just probably because I'm the head of the photo collection.
Sure.
But
I mean, it is cool
It is
too.
really cool.
Yeah.
So I encourage you all to spend a lot of time looking at that.
Did that take a while to make?
I didn't make it. Our designer Amy did. So no.
Yeah, Amy. Yeah.
That's one time. We get to mention her one more time.
All
so
right.
we'll bring
All
that
right.
up.
We'll
Yeah.
put it in there somewhere later.
Yeah.
So kind of just talking about the overall themes of the exhibit, kind of, just share some insights that you kind of, as you were doing the work, what were some of the themes that were kind of coming through?
Well, one of the things, since we're talking about Amy, that was great when we were talking. One of the themes that we discussed during the bonds are an issue, like another representation of how the community came together, because there's people vote on bonds, and the library really grew during that time. And one of the themes that we talked about is in the post-war era, post-World War II. One of the things that we found fascinating is how the valley was growing like crazy, right? This is where people after the war, there's a lot of people moving in the valley. Only it had 3 branches, and so there was this real need as all these people were moving to the valley to build the new branch system. And then in the 50s there was a bond for that. And so one of the things we really love about the collection, which is hilarious from the photo collection, is we have all these groundbreaking photos of these happy, boosters that are in there, all with shovels and, getting excited about the new history. But think of it as like a tale of two cities, because at the same time, as in other parts of the United States, the inner city was emptying. And there was a lot of services were not going to the inner city. And so the 60s in LA was like a tale of two cities. So it showed how there was lack of equity between resources in Los Angeles, and then that was a theme that we wanted to make sure got across, because, of course, there was in the Watts uprising there was we directed the librarians did what librarians do and put a book list together, but to really talk about and bring people's attention to some of the issues that were going on at that time. And one of the good things of that, which is a theme, it's a theme that came out of that, which I never knew, but talking to people that were around at that time, they talked about this policy called LAPL in the 90s, which kind of stemmed from the lack of equity in there was some of the questions about where resources were going and how to be more fair to all the city's populations. That actually underlay the growth of the library in the 90s, because that was another time that there were big bond issues. So there was in the 90s, there was the libraries were built with much more of a community focus. They asked, they were much more involved in asking communities what they wanted out of a library and how that was reflected. So it was really the library had always done that to some degree if it came out of communities, but this time that people that were in the communities had a lot larger say. There's a great video online about the Hyde Park Library and how that came together, and it's the story of this one one community. She's kind of a huge character in her community, and how involved she was in building the Hyde Park Library as a good example. So that was really nice to see that, we've talked about how we really got to see how the library kind of struggled with these issues of representation, and and I think we obviously still have a long way to go in that regard, but at least that we wanted to discuss that theme.
Yeah, and start the conversation at the very least, and kind of bring those themes out.
Yeah, and also I think also put a finer point on how kind of the struggles that the library was going through reflected the struggles that the city was going through in general.
Oh, sure.
And just how, again, just going back to how the story of the library is the story of the city of Los Angeles.
Cool. All right, should we show the next video?
Yes, we should.
Okay. If we can get the next video up, Alan. Thank you.
One of the first things you see when you come into the exhibition is on the far wall, the slideshow of all the branches. The slideshow itself shows the original locations of the branches and the current locations. In addition, on either side, flanking the slideshow, are the representations of all these public art that are in the various branches. Some of the public art represents a very deep meaning. For instance, the Memorial Branch Library stained glass windows that were donated by Los Angeles High School to represent alumni that had been killed in World War I. Some of them represent the kind of the history of the neighborhood, and one of the more fun ones is the Mack Sennett studio is located in Studio City, and so we have a representation of the Keystone Cops chasing. And then some of them are just much more fun, or it's put together. You can see the themes. There's one of my favorites is the purple dog in Lakeview Terrace.
And while we're on the subject of public art, we wanted to share one of our favorite pieces in the entire exhibit, which may not look like much at first glance, but it's actually kind of amazing. So when Central Library was being renovated and expanded to be reopened in 1993, there were a number of new public art components. And so people around the city submitted proposals, some of which were accepted, some of which weren't, and some of which maybe were accepted, and there just ended up not being the funding to implement them. And so in this case, we have one of those. So Stephen Prina proposed to have a clock in our atrium of the Tom Bradley Wing that on the hour, maybe on the half hour and 15, was going to chime Billboard's top 10 hits of 1993. So sadly, there wasn't the money, so it didn't happen. We don't know for sure if the plan was to switch them out every so often, or if just 1993 was going to chime in our ears every hour. And some may think it was a bad idea, but I think it was a missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity. The classic sounds of 1993 forever. Who doesn't want that? Can you imagine? 40 years of 1993. Anyway.
Yes, I can. I think about it often.
Just play it in the car. I guess kind of following up with the exhibit, what were some of the challenges of presenting all of the information visually? Because it's so many different things to kind of conceptualize and display that information. So what were some of the challenges?
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly it was just a giant challenge, because again, it's 150 years, and we want to convey a lot of information, but we also don't really want to bore everyone. So we knew from the beginning there was going to be a lot of photos, again, photo collection. I think we got around 400 photos in the exhibit.
Wow.
I think. I haven't counted. I keep meaning to count them, and I haven't.
How many did you look through to get to the 400?
Oh, I don't know.
Thousands?
Thousands.
Can you imagine? I mean,
Yeah,
6 months,
it was,
thousands, that's a lot.
Although, I mean, a lot of them I knew, like, immediately. We were, these are the ones we're going to use.
Sure.
But yeah, so we knew, in addition to photos, we also have a lot of, visual elements from our special collections. So, we knew we wanted to get those in. In terms of laying them out, as we've mentioned, we wanted to have a loose chronology. We did not want to have a timeline. And so Amy Inouye, who's the president of Photo Friends.
It's a second shout out.
Yes. Chicken Boy's mom. She is also the designer. That's the second time. Okay, I'll stop.
All right.
So she was the designer of the exhibition, and so we went to her and said, okay, Amy, we have like all these photos and text, and we want to lay it out, but we don't want it to be a timeline. Cool? And Amy has been the president of Photo Friends for like 15 years and always says yes to me, and I don't know why. She keeps saying yes, but she does. Yeah, and so she, so she laid it out. And so when you go into the exhibition, again, like one of the coolest things is when you look at that timeline, we did kind of break up the information into eras. And for every era, there's like a wallpaper of that era. So if you look at like the 50s, it's like that boomerang atomic age design. And then the photos are laid out almost to look like framed photos on the paper. And so I think it just beautifully breaks it all up so that I think it's pretty easy to digest. So I think that I give her so much credit for that. And it wasn't easy. And I think I finally broke her. Nah, I'll never break you, Amy.
And I just wanted to add along the photos, the way that Amy put the photos in these frames. As you look along, like with the wallpaper, it's like our family photos, our family history.
Yeah, it is our family
And that was
history.
totally, when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's so wonderful.
And just the way that the text, because there is a ton of text, which Jim wrote. Jim wrote all the text in this exhibit, so I have to give him credit for that.
Yay, Jim.
Yeah, no, it's incredible.
It's a lot of work.
I will say not all the text he wrote is in the exhibit, because I did edit him tremendously.
There was a lot, yeah.
Yeah, but I think...
no, but it came across well. But Amy really put the text together on the images. They worked well together.
Oh, it's fantastic, and and again, it was really important to us to have all of our 72 branches represented. So we needed to figure out a way to do that wouldn't be overwhelming.
Right.
And so that's where we have the slideshow. And I do have to give a little bit of credit to Todd LaRue with the Library Foundation. So he does exhibitions. And before ours, there was the Something in Common exhibit.
Yes.
And so we just went in and like stole a bunch of the design elements from that. And one of them was the slideshow, which is wall size.
Yeah.
And so we just, we just replicated the rig. And so we actually have a slideshow of photos of every branch that we were able to find. So it's not every single branch we've ever had, but it was the ones that I could find photos of. So I did have to look through a lot of photos for that.
Right.
Photos of all of our current branches taken by Gary Leonard. So it is 196 photos, and the slideshow runs 20 minutes. And and there is a bench, so you can sit down and watch it if you want. We were up till like 11 o'clock at night one night, making sure all of those addresses were correct. So that was like one way to cram in that many branches.
Super librarian, like detailed work.
And the thing is, we enjoyed it. I mean,
we did.
We wish
I was like punching myself a little bit, but
we wish we'd been doing it months in advance.
We wish we would have had 2 years to do it. Yeah. So that was one way, we got the visuals in. One of the other things that I absolutely love in the exhibition is we actually do have, another thing we stole from Todd was we have an old-fashioned carousel slideshow. And that really tells the story of the fire. So after the fire happened, there was a whole big Save the Books campaign to raise $10 million to replace the materials that had been damaged. And so there were these Save the Books ambassadors that would go out to try to fundraise. And this is before PowerPoint. So they had a slideshow, like 35 millimeter mounted slideshow. And so we actually have multiple copies of that slideshow. And so when I saw that Todd had figured out a way to rig a carousel projector, I went, oh my God, we have a slideshow.
Right.
And so that's another way that I got 80 photos into the exhibit.
Okay.
And I just wanted to add to that, when we were looking through and making it, because
it was
larger,
140 originally.
Yeah, it's getting it down to 80. But we'd seen all these photos. It's all about the Central Library and it's in the fire. And even though we'd seen so many photos before, somehow working on this slideshow, and if you get the chance to sit through it, it's extraordinarily moving. I mean, we're attached to the subject. But like there's something about the carousel, which just kind of the way the rhythm it does, that it really, I found it very powerful when we were sitting through it.
It is, and there are chairs right in front of it, so you can sit and watch it. So we do encourage everybody to sit and watch it. We also made a book list for the exhibit. Jim made a book list because librarians make book lists. So that's another thing. I don't know if people are noticing. So we have a lot of different elements, and it's a lot of photos, which is fantastic. But I don't know. I think it tells the story pretty well. Didn't somebody from New York tell you the other day?
Yeah,
it's really good.
But also getting back to the way that you set the wallpaper with the Herald Examiner photos, I found that incredibly moving too, because there's all these things they've never been seen before, and they cover that whole wall. And as you go through, you really get a feeling for what the day was like. And again, this is something we've read about, heard about, but to kind of see it in all these kind of nuances, really powerful.
Yeah, it is.
Would
Oh,
you
absolutely.
say so? But
I
then
would
with the
say so.
videos too, I think there's
Yeah,
a
and
lot of
6
good
months,
stuff.
guys. I mean, 6 months is not a lot of time to put together an exhibit with the amount of research that would necessitate, like getting all the facts right, thinking of the theme, including everyone, because you don't want to as far as like the branches and it's really admirable. I mean,
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
No, for sure, it's a lot of work.
But I do think we were the only two that could have done it. Like I know the photo collection, you know the history, and you have your 33-page timeline. Right. So it all came together.
But also to introduce the last video, the other visual aspect. Did you want to introduce that?
Oh, the banners?
Yeah.
Well, I think we talk about them. So.
But it was something that Amy had a big part in
Yeah.
the next video that we'd like to show.
Okay.
Well, and I do want to say, yeah, so when we're going to talk about some banners that we have on display, and that was another thing we took from Todd. We used his rig. Amy sewed all these banners together. So I want to give her, I mentioned you 3 times, sorry. I said I would only do 2.
All right.
But she sewed them all together, which is amazing.
All right, yeah, can we show the last video?
Yeah.
All right.
After the library fire, the Central Library had a temporary location on Spring Street at the Design Center. In this building, the different departments of the Central Library were represented on different floors, but in order to distinguish them so that people would be oriented when they came in, there were banners created at the time to show the different names of the departments, social sciences, literature and fiction, and so on. We had found pictures of these banners, and we even had one of the older ones. And so we wanted to represent that in the exhibition.
Yeah, we really loved the design of the banners. So we wanted to not only pay tribute to our past, but we also wanted to acknowledge all of our subject departments from Central Library, the ones that were around in 1986, as well as the ones that have sprung up since then. And in the process, just have a little fun with it. And so Amy Inouye, the president of Photo Friends, who is also our exhibition designer, we tasked her with somehow taking those old banners and creating something new. And that's what we have here, which I think is a really fun way to call out all of our incredible Central Library subject departments.
Yay. All right, Amy got mentioned 4 times. Yeah, crazy. All right, I had my own question I wanted to ask.
Okay.
Last one.
Yes.
And then we're going to open it up to audience questions.
And we need to plug the catalog.
Oh, right. Well, why don't we talk a little bit about the catalog?
Okay. The catalog was designed by Amy. That's 5 times.
Okay, sorry.
No, so these just arrived the other day, and so so we do have an exhibition catalog. So it has, I think everything is in there except our slideshows. We didn't put those 300 photos, but yeah, I think it turned out amazing.
I think it came out really good.
Yeah, and Diane, are we doing a giveaway? What are we doing with those? Are we gonna have them for sale? What are we doing?
So the lucky first 10 people, you received a postcard, and on the back is a number. So after the program, you can walk out, and Amy will be there and can hand you a book. And I think you guys are going to be autographing copies, right?
If you want us to, yes.
If you want to. Famous signature. And then they'll also be able to, Amy, I think, is going to be able to have them available if you would like to purchase. And eventually, they'll be at the library store, too.
Yes. Thank you, Diane.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess kind of I wanted to end off before we open up if there were any audience questions. I know there's no way to know, but what do you think like the library would look like in another 150 years? Like, I know there's no way to, just speculating, but what are you guys imagining?
Well, I know we'll still be here.
Sure.
I think
Thank God.
that so-called experts are always proclaiming how libraries are obsolete, and then we always continue to laugh at them and defy them. So we definitely will still be here 150 years from now. If society exists, the library will exist.
I mean, the library is about people connecting with people and
Sure.
showing them resources and information to learn more. And I think the technology will always change. The format will always change. I mean, as an example, people are like, "Oh, you're a librarian. I'm sorry, I like audiobooks," and I'm like, "I love audiobooks." So even like they're somehow betraying like this idea. But the library is very adaptable, and I think will continue to adapt because the mission and the connection is the same. The format changes.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
people are like, "Well, what about ChatGPT?" It'll answer. Well, we'll see. But I feel like, people connecting with people is really what's important. It's the thing I enjoy most about the job. So I certainly hope that's the case.
Yeah, and I think librarians in general, like the really good ones, are excellent problem solvers and are always adaptable. And I feel like as long as a lot of those core, themes about being a librarian are always going to stay true, then the library will just adapt. just as the community and times change. So
Absolutely, yeah. We're always going to serve our community. Our community is always going to be there for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll just maybe look a little bit different. But we're always going to be providing access to information.
Yeah.
And, and I think people will still be using the collections here at Central because they're amazing and you can't digitize everything.
Right.
The photo collection won't be completely digitized in 150 years. It takes too long.
maybe 150 years it'll be a hologram of this exhibit with the 300th
Yes.
exhibit.
There you go.
And
Yeah,
you'll implant it in
absolutely.
your eye,
Yeah.
if with our eyes.
Can
Maybe
I?
we'll still be around in 150 years.
Maybe
God
they
forbid.
will.
Oh
We'll
my
have our
God.
head in a jar.
Yeah.
Can I plug a program really quick?
Oh, yeah, by
I
the
just
way.
want. I'm sorry. I just because I'm a librarian here. So there are postcards out in the lobby. Next Saturday at 2 p.m. in our meeting room B, we are relaunching our Happy Birthday LA, celebrating the natal days of notable Angelinos, where we are going to be where we celebrate the birthday of an Angelino who maybe you don't know so much about, but you should. And so next week we'll be celebrating Colonel Eddie, who built Angel's Flight. So if you want to join us at 2 p.m., we will have cake. Thank you.
Ooh, all right, yeah. So we're gonna open it to audience questions now. Oh, okay.
And if you have a question, I'll bring the mic to you so we can get it recorded. Okay, so any questions, and I'll bring the mic.
Thank you. My name is Gary Fordyce. I'm a friend of the Northridge Library, and I have a couple of questions. Jim, you mentioned there were only three libraries in the San Fernando Valley after the war. I would like to know what those libraries, which one. And then the second thing is, maybe somebody can comment on the fact, I hope you always have books and you don't evolve into digital. I don't want to see that.
Over our dead body, will they
Well,
take
just
the books
to make you
outta
feel a
here?
little better about the second one, both my daughters are generation, I guess they're calling it Generation Z now. But there's actually a backlash against a lot of electronic stuff. I know I also work at a community college as a librarian, and there was a big study that came out that said current students prefer to have physical textbooks. So it's something that you can see. And also I think that, get into my theories, but the way that you read a book and pass through a book is different. So I think it's easier for me to remember anyway, but I'm biased. To answer your question, it's the Owensmouth branch, the Van Nuys branch. And Owensmouth is now Owensmouth, which is now called Canoga Park. The Van Nuys branch, and then the North Hollywood branch. And that's technically, I think that's right. So they're definitely before the war. I think during the war, yeah. So those are the three. Those are the three.
Oh, and then one of the visual things we didn't. So we had mentioned that there were lots of groundbreakings. Well, there's a groundbreaking for all of those valley branches, and so we wanted to convey that post-war growth. So in the exhibit, there's actually photos of every single groundbreaking, all clustered together, which we just thought was hilarious. So I hope you enjoy our groundbreaking ones. Wow. This is not available as an ebook, by the way. You can only get it in print.
Any other questions? No? Really? Oh, there we go.
All right.
Don't be shy.
Thank you. I hope the public is coming to see the exhibit. Are groups visiting from branch libraries or civic organizations? Or is an effort being made to bring those people?
I mean, it's open to the public, so yeah.
No, I mean, I think the door count numbers have been high. That they've told us that. So we've had some. I gave a tour to our focal librarians last week, and then who did you bring? Metro?
Right, it was Metro, I can't think of the acronym. It was a special senior group who go on exciting trips of Los Angeles. There's 15 of them, and they loved the exhibit. And these two were there, and they got to meet the curators.
But yeah,
that was fun.
We are more than happy to do tours. So
And the
if you have a
docents,
group,
I really want to shout out to the docents
Yeah.
who are speaking of library history. I mean, I was recently interviewed by Southern California Public Radio about the exhibit, and she goes, well, let's go out and talk about the art. And I'm like, well, we really need a docent, because their understanding of the library's design, which this place is, there's so much information, deep granular information. The docents are fantastic. And I think the docents have been bringing in people into the exhibition too, so that's great.
And there's been a lot of LUSD classes filtering through.
Really?
Yeah, there has been. And Teenscape is right across the hall, so they've gotten tours.
All right.
Any other questions?
Anyone else? Oh.
Okay.
Oh, hold on one sec.
Thanks very much. I just want to say it's a great exhibition for a start. But I want to ask, what happens when it gets taken down? Where's it going to go, and how is it going to be kept and preserved and so forth? Obviously, there's the book, but I mean the physical elements.
Oh, yeah, well, all the physical elements came out of our special collections to begin with. So anything we brought from that warehouse is going into our special collections. And like most of the photos on the wall are just reprints. We do have the ability to do like a 360, like photograph the exhibition as a 360, which right now there's a tour of Central Library. So we will be doing that, so the exhibit can live on that way. And then we have the catalog available for purchase in the lobby that encompasses everything.
That's an excellent question. Yeah, we'll
Thanks, James.
We'll definitely have the banners are going to be kept, because one thing we didn't mention is that some of the banners from the 1993 reopening are in the current exhibition. So hopefully our banners will be seen sometime in the future.
Yeah.
And I know the archives, they've asked, as soon as we started creating all the 150th material, right away they made sure they had copies.
Oh yeah, and everything we've created, kind of the print materials, and Diane's wearing our special T-shirt that we made for staff. So all of that will be going into the archive as well. So no, it's been nice. We've been the last few years we've been really focusing on our institutional archive, which we hadn't in the past. So that made the exhibition a little bit easier. So for the last few years, I've had an archivist in my department focusing on our collection, which, I think institutions are really bad about their own stuff. And so we've been going to the branches and going throughout the building and compiling everything. And our special collections department they're actually in the process of doing it. So just when we thought we had kind of laid out everything, Rose Knopka, who's the archivist taking care of the collection, would go, "Hey, you guys, I found this." And we're just like, "Rose, stop sending us stuff. We don't have any more room." So I'm sure she has found like more stuff the last 2 months, and she's just been nice enough to not tell us about it. So all of this stuff. And online, so we have an institutional photo archive online, but our special collections department recently launched an institutional archive of ephemera. So you can go to tessa.lapl.org, which is where our digital collections are. And so they've actually started digitizing some of these ephemeral items, and you can start taking a look at that. So they'll continue to add to that. Thank you.
In light of the fact that Richard Reardon just passed away, are you able to include him at all in the gallery? Or could you address it a little bit, being the namesake for the library?
Yeah, so we weren't really focusing on people in the exhibition, but there is a photo of him do we have more than one, or just the one with Bill Gates?
The one with Bill Gates, yeah.
So, when that happened, administration's like, our PR was like, is he in the exhibition? Yes, he is. So, he is represented in there. Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello. So I'm curious to know if in the 150-year history, if there are any stories that are going to make it to the movies specific to LAPL.
That are going to make it to the...
Yeah, like as a story that's going to be turned into a movie somewhere or on something.
Oh, what would you turn into a movie? What do you think would be good? I think the Battle for Central Library, to tear it down.
Yeah, and then
that should be a mini-series.
I love the idea of Mary Foy, who's because movies based on she was a teenager that became one of the best central librarians early on, and she was just a phenomenal character. Her whole story, that'd be more like a TV series too.
That would be a TV series.
But the Central Library, the book that we were planning to write originally is how Central Library almost got torn down, and that was, during the beginning in the 60s and then the 70s. And by the way, librarians who worked there at the time was like, tear it down, because it was a terrible place to work, and it was overmatched. So it's like the way that they really fought, and the LA Conservancy is born out of that, out of the movement to save this building. And I think that would make a great movie too.
We need to write the book. We need to write the book first.
Or a podcast. That sounds like an excellent podcast.
Could be a podcast.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. We're going to write a book.
Make a movie,
people,
make a
Kevin.
podcast, and a book.
And Charles Lummis, of course, is a nut. So following his story, he's the man that put together the brand. By the way, that brand in theory is somewhere in the Gene Autry. We've heard that it's in the Gene Autry Museum, but we
interesting.
can't. We don't know for sure.
But that's okay, because we have our own brand now. And we branded my Jane Russell and Anne Dvorak books, just so I can plug my own
The
books.
very first ones.
Thank you.
All right. I think that's gonna do it for us. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Jim, Christina, Kevin.
Thank everyone for coming. Thank you.
Yeah. Please visit the exhibit.
So thank you for attending the Alley Made program and for celebrating our 150th anniversary. The success of Alley Made and literally all of our library programs could not happen without the support of you, our patrons and viewers. And so thank you so much. And I want to also make sure, shout out, because I'm a librarian, as Christina said, we have the summer reading program starting June 5th, and all of you, of course, can join. There's an app, but you can do it the old-fashioned way. There'll be a really cool game board available at all the branches and here at Central. And we have some cards outside in case you want to take it home with the beautiful work from the Brenda Chi, the local artist. And we'll hope to see you out there picking up your 150th amazing catalog of the exhibit. Thank you. Thank you so much.